Kicking things off, Hawks fly past the Bucks. Trev, contain your excitement for now.
We'll try.
Minus Trae Young, of course, versus Bucks game 4, third quarter. Giannis defending the alley-oop, hyperextends his knee. Giannis would leave the game and not return. The Hawks would go on a 25-10 run to end the third quarter after Giannis's injury. Clint Capella with the circus shot behind the backboard to cap off the Hawks' dominant night.
You get an H for that on the other side.
Absolutely. And nobody else hitting this shot.
Hawks win game 4, 110-88, and even the series at 2 games apiece. What do we got? Winners, losers.
We're going to go loser superstar injury status, because it feels like we continue to get robbed of the biggest stars on the brightest stage that is these NBA playoffs, right? Like losing Trae Young before game 4 is one thing, but losing Giannis in the game in the second half is another thing. I understand we can point to the short offseason, but it also feels like hella bad luck going around with the timeliness and personnel that end up getting injured.
Yeah, I can say for it to always be the star seems pretty unusual. And you're right, soft tissue is genuinely what we think of when it comes to these injuries associated with the quick turnaround. This is just good old-fashioned, man. Like
tough.
All right, let's get some winners in here. How about freaks of the industry? Shout out to Digital Underground here. As we know, PJ Tucker, on the same day he announced his Dolce & Gabbana collaboration, also got to debut the Zoom Freak 3, courtesy of his teammate Giannis Antetokounmpo there. And I see a lot of good sneakers on the set here. So, guys, a big fan of this right now. Comfort and style here, A++.
Fantastic.
I like it.
I just love the fact that PJ's wearing his homeboy sneaker. That's still active. Like, that's debuted. But winner, Killer Cam. Shouts to Cam Reddish, who in just his second daggone game since February 21st came in and gave you some really quality minutes if you're Atlanta. Put up 12 points, hit a couple big shots, and had the absolute straps on when it came to his defensive assignment. I'm thrilled for him, and I'm also happy that, like, we got a wing defender back on a very timely manner.
Well, and you know what? Let's go loser on the other side of that. Maybe don't shoot your shot. J.J. Watt gave a lot of people a false sense of confidence showing off with his lady earlier. But how about this? The Bucks shot 39.3% tonight, their second worst field goal percentage in a game this postseason. The only game worse, they actually won in game 3 against the Nets. So the shots weren't falling even before the injury.
Appointment viewing, you know what I'm saying? It's always Dame time. Another overrated for you? Clearly, Taylor Twelman. Underrated on Zion.
SportsNation is must-watch TV, over, under, properly rated.
Underrated, especially when Taylor Twelman is on.
Oh, I feel this is going to be an extra spicy edition of the rating game with none other than one of our favorites here on Sports Nation, Jorge Sedano. And, buddy, we got to get right into it because Giannis, injury, hyperextending that knee. We don't know if he's going to be 100% for the remainder of the series. We got to say this. We got to get you to rate this statement right here with all of that in mind. If Giannis is not 100%, the Bucks cannot win this series. Where do you rate that?
Before I get to that, have I bullied Taylor Twelman enough that he's never going to be on this show when I'm on?
You're the reason, yes.
You guys are also clearly pinning me down very early, and I know you got Golic Jr. there, who is strong enough to pin me and a bunch of people down. So on this particular question, man, this one's tough, okay? Like, we were talking about this off air, and the NBA this season reminds me of the NFL. It's a battle of attrition in a lot of ways. But if you're telling me Giannis is back, even if he's not 100%, I'll take my chances with the Bucks. I just think that overall they're still bigger and stronger, and they have the better team still. Despite Atlanta being fantastic, I have picked against them in every series, and I've looked like an idiot. The Trae Young injury to me, if you're telling me Giannis is coming back, okay, and he can play, and I still have a healthy Holiday and Middleton, and Holiday I feel like eventually will show up in this series. I like my chances with the Bucks as long as Trae is not 100%. That's a huge loophole I just gave you, but I'm going to take that because you didn't close it on me.
All right, since we're talking about pinning George down here right now, he did a great job wiggling out of that one with Giannis. We'll see if he's got it in the bag right now for Paul George, because Paul George and the Clippers have fought back from down 2-0 against the Mavs, against the Jazz, and now they're looking to do it against the Suns, down 3-2 here. Paul George goes off for a career playoff high 41 points in Game 5. So, George, I'll ask you to respond and rate this statement here. Paul George is not getting the flowers that he deserves. How do you rate that?
Underrated, Golick. This guy is doing something historical here, okay? In his 18 playoff games this season, the first 18 games that he's played, he's got 20 points or more. The only people to do that in the history of the NBA are Michael Jordan, who did it 3 times, 1992, 1997, and 1998. Kobe Bean Bryant, may he rest in peace, in 2008, and Kevin Durant in 2012 and 2018. This dude not only put up a career-high 41 points, but did it with 41, 13, and 6 with 3 steals on 10 of 15 shooting. Or no, pardon me, 15 of 20 shooting. This guy was incredibly efficient, and he's doing it without Kawhi Leonard, as you mentioned, averaging 30, 11, and 6 since Kawhi's been down. Paul George deserves credit. Paul George deserves your respect. Put your jokes back in your Twitter drafts. Give that man his respect, his due, his flowers, and put respect on his name.
I think the only slight that everybody had against him, I saw it on the internet, is that he gave himself the nickname Playoff P. That was just the only gripe that folks had.
But do you know the genesis of that story?
Please.
So he was asked about that, I believe, in Oklahoma City, if I have the story correct. And it was about a great defensive performance that he had in a series with OKC. And he's like, yeah, man, that's playoff P right there, which, again, gets twisted into, he's talking about being the man and scoring 40 points a night. It was really about his defense, if we're going to be real about what he actually said. But you know what? He ain't pandemic P like y'all out there are tweeting. He ain't playoff P even. What we saw the other night was Pacer P. We saw the guy with the Indiana Pacers who was going up against LeBron, Wade, and Bosh in those 2 Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay, I just wanted the fact that he pulled that story out of thin air, underrated.
Yes,
go ahead, Trey.
very underrated. So we will get to the other rating that I wanted to get up out of you. And look, Chauncey Billups, new head coach out there in Portland, and look, whether or not Damian Lillard is happy with the hire is a different story, but him being Damian Lillard, finding postseason success requires him leaving. Over, under, or properly rated?
This is tough. I love the people in Oregon and in Portland, and I'm just softening you up so you don't hit me over the head in my Twitter mentions, but I'm going to say properly rated. I just look at this team and I just don't see a way where they can get better. They're kind of capped out, basically, when you think about it. They don't have like a high draft pick that they can bank on necessarily. And Neil O'Shea has put them in a tough spot. CJ McCollum is a good player, but there's perhaps too much duplication with him and Dame in their skill sets, although Dame obviously is a different level of great from that particular position. What they need is to make a move. And unfortunately, that move may be hitting the reset button and blowing this whole thing up. And the best way to do that is to trade what I believe is a top 7 player in the NBA in Damian Lillard. So for both parties, it may be the best thing for them.
It's the rating game. It's Jorge Sedano here on Sports Nation. Always appreciate seeing you, my man.
All right, family. Be good. Take care.